Hello everyone, welcome again to Real Class. My name still remains M.A. Ido. This time we are taking you through non-African drama. Specifically, we are looking at Antony and Cleopatra by William Shakespeare. Yes, we are going to take this text step by step as we have written it on the board here by way of the summary. Now, first of all, the text is a tragedy. What's a tragedy? Tragedy is a play or drama with a sad conclusion to its plot, alright, where there is misfortune at the end of the story, alright, usually involving the major characters. And this time around, it involves Antony and Cleopatra, yes, who tragically die at the end of the text. Now, again, we look at it as an eponymous text. What's an eponymous text? A text in literature in which the name of the major characters are taken as the word title, alright? For example, Cleopatra is one of the major characters, Antony, one of the major characters, both of them form the major characters, the protagonist, still taken as the title, making the text eponymous. Alright, and then we talk about Antony at the beginning of the text, as we are told, is one of the rulers in the Roman Empire, the others being Caesar and Lepidus. And at the beginning of the text, we are told about the fact that Antony is a reckless person. He neglects his role as one of the rulers in Roman Empire with preference to following his lover Cleopatra back in Egypt. Alright, and Cleopatra is actually the queen of Egypt. Yes, while he was away, news got to him that his wife Fulvia is already dead, coupled with the fact that Pompey and his army are actually rising up against Lepidus and Caesar in order to take over Rome. Alright, so when the news got to Antony, he decided to come back. But when he came back, Caesar tries to wage war against him for his reckless abandoning of Roman Empire until Lepidus, one of the rulers, settles the case between them. Okay, yes, and a deal, of course, is struck between Caesar and Antony that Antony should marry Caesar's sister known as Octavia, so that there will be unity between them, so that they can join hands together to fight their common enemy known as Pompey. Alright, but Enobarbus, one of the loyal servants of Antony, has sworn that even though Antony has actually married Octavia, one day he's still going to go back to Egypt to go and meet the queen of Egypt known as Cleopatra. Alright, so when Cleopatra heard of the news of the wedding between Antony and of course Octavia, she is very much furious until she is told that nothing is that serious, and she accepted and everything goes on well. Alright, and along the line, yes, the three rulers known as Lepidus, Antony and Caesar, alright, have decided to strike an agreement with Pompey, alright, that they shouldn't go to war, but they should prefer an amicable and lasting solution to their problems or predicaments. Alright, and in the light of that, what happens is that Pompey is of the view that he should be in control of Sicily and of course, Sardinia, and they accepted. Now, after that, what happened is that after the marriage between Antony and Octavia, both of them traveled to Athens. When they got to Athens, they heard of the news of the war that Caesar has waged against Pompey, defeating him against the earlier plan that he had. Alright, and then Antony is not happy with that. Antony has sworn that he was going to come back to fight Caesar. But his wife, Octavia, right now, begs the husband that, look, I'm going to have a divided loyalty. The person you are going to fight is my brother, and you are my husband. Who am I going to support? To this effect, Antony now agrees that, okay, the wife, Octavia, should go straight to Rome to go and settle whatever problem is there, while he himself would directly go to Egypt to meet his lover, Cleopatra. Alright? Yes. So back in Rome, Caesar is not happy with the fact that Antony had actually maltreated his sister. So because of that, he is now ready to wage war against Antony back in Egypt. Alright? Yes. And then Antony back in Egypt is already getting ready to fight Caesar, but this time around, he's getting ready to fight him at sea. Okay, and the army is to be led by his lover Cleopatra against the warnings given to him by his loyal servant Enobarbus. He continues. All right. So when the war starts, what happens is that Antony and his wife Cleopatra and the soldiers surrounding them were defeated. All right. And then Antony blames the wife for leading him into what? Into this disgrace. Okay. So along the line, what later happened was that another war again came up. Before that war came up, Enobarbus had already lost interest in his boss, Antony, and going to join Caesar, who is currently a kind of regarded as being stronger in the world, in the land. So when another war came out, what happened was that Antony ends up defeating Caesar. And then Enobarbus, who earlier left Antony, is now embarrassed. Because of that, he had no choice than to commit suicide. Okay? Yes, having committed suicide, another war came up again. When the war came up, they met at sea, but this time around, Cleopatra led the war again. And the war, actually, Antony lost again. And then Antony blamed Cleopatra for making him lose the war. And he swears that he was going to kill Cleopatra. So when Cleopatra heard of this, Cleopatra actually wasn't happy at all. And she was afraid of her life. She had to send a message to Antony, pretending to be dead. So when Antony heard of the news of the death of Cleopatra, he quickly rushed to meet her in the monument, all right, where he asked the servant to kill him, all right. But the servant was afraid. He had to, cut his own self. But he didn't die at that point. It was actually when he was taken to the presumed, monument of Cleopatra that the guy eventually falls and dies. Yes, so after the death of Antony, what later happens? Cleopatra is to be taken by Caesar as a prisoner to Rome to be disgraced. Okay, having heard of these plans against her, she had no choice than to commit suicide. Having committed suicide, her dead body too is taken to the place where Antony was buried, and then she was buried close to the body of Antony. Okay, and that is where the tragedy ends, and then the title comes to play: Antony and Cleopatra, their tragic end. That is that. So that in our next video, we'll look at the themes and we'll also look at the characters and characterization. Hello, welcome back. We are still looking at Antony and Cleopatra, and this time we are looking at it based on the characters and characterization. Characters, of course, are the fictional individuals represented in a literary work, and characterization refers to the manner in which the writer presents these fictional individuals so credible that they appear real within the confine or limit of the story. Now we have some of these major characters there. Mark Antony is one of the three rulers referred to as triumvirates, all right? One of the three rulers in the Roman Empire, all right, who lives a very reckless life. Yes, and then Cleopatra happens to be Antony's lover. And of course, don't forget that she's the queen of Egypt. All right, and we talk about Pompey, the common enemy of the three rulers. Don't forget the three rulers being Antony, Lepidus, and Caesar. So this is their common enemy that tries to wage war against them. All right, until he's given the privilege to rule Sardinia and Sicily. All right, and then we look at Caesar Octavius. He is also one of the three rulers of the Roman Empire who tries to settle the problem between, Antony and Caesar when Antony returns from Egypt, and then Caesar is not actually happy with him because he has actually neglected his duty as one of the rulers with preference to his lover, Cleopatra, back in Egypt. Yes, Lepidus does that. And then we look at Enobarbus, a very loyal servant to Antony, until he finally leaves to support Caesar, in that Antony has actually lost the war now. Everybody sees him as a loser. He decided to leave. Back again, when the guy won another war, he felt embarrassed and had to commit suicide. Cannot withstand the shame, seeing the boss that he left earlier and winning the war again. Yes, so let's look at the things which are, of course, the universal ideas explored in every literary work. Now, these are the few, ideas that we find embedded in the work. We have theme of war, all right? Yes, we have several wars recorded there between Antony and of course Caesar. Yes. Then we have theme of love. Love demonstrated between Antony and Cleopatra, all right? And the love even leading to their deaths. And don't forget that this Antony and Cleopatra, their deaths resembles that of Romeo and Juliet. They died the same way. Yes. Theme of betrayal. Enobarbus actually betrayed his boss because his boss lost the war. He rushed to meet another person. But by the end of the day, he was highly embarrassed when his boss finally won the war again. Yes, and we have theme of deaths. Of course, at the end of the text, we find the theme of deaths recorded in the part of the protagonist, Cleopatra, and of course Antony and Cleopatra. And even the wife of, the real wife of Antony, Fulvia, at the beginning we are told about her death. So that one also falls under the theme of death. Then we have theme of recklessness. And this, points to Antony in the text. He's very reckless. He neglects his duty as one of the rulers of the Roman Empire, running after a woman, the queen of Egypt, in person of Cleopatra. Of course, his reckless life, we could say, leads to his death. Alright, so that's that. In our next class, we shall look at another text, Marriage of Anansewa by F. Sutherland.